All right, welcome back to the Elias Macko Show and the third hour of the program. Canada may be losing ground in a global competition that could shape the country's future workforce. The head of Universities Canada says the country is falling behind in the race to attract the world's top students, raising concerns about the long-term innovation, talent, and economic growth for this country. Gabriel Miller is on the line, president of Universities Canada. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Elias. It's great to be with you.
What's at the heart of all this? Why are we falling behind? Why can't we attract the best and brightest?
Well, you gave a great introduction, but let me try and put it as simply as I possibly can. The biggest race in the world right now is the race for the people we're going to need to be winners in the future economy. And Canada's in a race, honestly, to save our future in a world that's gotten very, very difficult, to rebuild our military, to get ahead of the AI revolution, to expand housing, and to dramatically increase our trade. The problem is we're trying to run that race right now with a 50-pound stone on our back. And there's two big parts to that. One is we got a really antiquated visa system that just isn't keeping up with the rest of the world. There's a lot of people working hard to improve it in Ottawa, but we got to work faster and make bigger changes, because while people wait in line to come and build companies in Canada, they end up walking away and going to the UK or the United States or Australia and other places.
What are they doing different? Like, so this is fascinating, right? Like,
Yep.
So what are they doing in Australia, in the UK, and in the US? What are they doing different when it comes to fast tracking those best and brightest?
Well, I think the thing to remember is there's a whole series of things that go into where someone will go. And every country has its relative strengths. So we know the United States is doing all sorts of things that actually will push people away. But it also has some huge draws that, frankly, we don't have. So the size of its economy, it has Silicon Valley, it has huge venture capital firms. So if there's ways the States is going to outcompete us right now, we have to outcompete them in the areas where we can. We can run a better visa system in the United States, so we should. I think the second point is, with a country like Australia, there's a clear national role for the federal government in supporting universities in this work. It's less clear in Canada because we have responsibilities divided between the provincial and federal government. We need to work harder then to line up what our provinces are doing overseas to promote Canada, and what the federal government is doing here at home to run our immigration system.
And, one thing I want to discuss, it seems like we are still letting in a lot of people to study in Canada. Maybe it's not as high as it was, 3-4 years ago.
Right.
But in the grand scheme of things, historically, it's at a level that is pretty unprecedented historically in Canada. So I'm just wondering, like, are the people we are letting in just not the best and brightest? Like, are we filling up the slots with the wrong people?
No, I wouldn't say that. There's two things to keep in mind about what happened in Canada under the previous government. And I really want to emphasize that, because I think Prime Minister Carney has come in and he sees the issue here and he's working towards it. We just need to make sure he's got the support from other governments and within, frankly, the federal government to keep this moving forward. But the two issues under the last government was, first, they let the system get out of control. And then they tried to slam the door shut in a way that didn't just keep out the people we wanted to keep out. It kept out a lot of the people we wanted to bring here, that we needed to bring here. The issue for Canada in the next few years is not quantity. So I agree with you. We don't need to be arguing over the number of people we're letting in. It's come way down. It's down by about 3/4. That's fine. We need to learn how to work with that number for the foreseeable future. But every one of those spaces you can use to get the very best in the world, the people who be engineers, entrepreneurs, people who will either stay here and maybe become doctors or go home and build trading relationships with Canada, that's money in our pocket. That's jobs for our future. And we could be more competitive than we are right now. We know there are people we want to come here within those numbers, and we're losing them for reasons that we can control.
With Gabriel Miller, president of Universities Canada, we're talking about attracting the brightest worldwide to come to Canadian universities. Let me ask you if our institutions are falling behind. And maybe it's because of provincial funding, other issues. But, like I'm looking at all the great universities that we talk about all the time in this country. McGill right here at home. You go to Ontario, BC, all the great places. York University. I could go on and on. Queens, Western. I'm missing a whole bunch here. We've got these institutions. Are they falling behind where students are saying, I'd rather go, to a U.S. university or a British university instead of a Canadian one?
I mean, the short answer to the question is they're at risk. And I say that because they've worked very, very hard to hold their position and to continue to rise in the international rankings. But we're seeing some really worrisome trends. And I'm not going to ask your listeners to spend a lot of time, sympathizing with university presidents or worrying about whether we can balance our budgets. The real issue here is what happens to the Canadians who are counting on those institutions to help them have a good future, to get a good job, to have a rewarding, secure career, and what happens to the economy that needs us to be getting the very best people in the world. And the truth is, our governments have been stepping back from the partnership that built our outstanding universities over the last 100 years. And especially in the last 10 or 20, they've been allowing universities to rely more on international students to help pay for our own kids' education. And we just need to step up now, provincially, federally, and reaffirm the partnership that allowed generations of Canadians to improve their lives by getting access to these schools.
You gave a vote of confidence for the Carney administration. You made that distinction between the previous Liberal government and this Liberal government. But I need to ask you about the vote of confidence that comes. I look at Mark Carney. None of his 4 children go to Canadian universities. For his children, it's all U.S. and U.K. So I wonder what that says. How does that make you feel? That the Prime Minister, who's maybe trying to change things, his own children don't go to Canadian universities?
Well, I won't question any of the choices the Carney family makes. I will tell you, I have had the chance to spend a bit of time with the Prime Minister and talk about this issue. And what came through to me is this is a man who cares very, very deeply about education and believes in the central importance of Canadian universities. So I think we have an ally there. And it's also someone, the flip side of what you're saying, I'd say, is he's someone who understands the value of learning in Canada. He grew up in Canada. He went to elementary and high school here, but also sees the value in combining an education in Canada with exposure to the world. So we're very happy to have Prime Minister Carney as a supporter of universities, and that's the least of our problems.
Well, of course, and also examples are set from the top, and it'd be nice to see more McGills and less Yales and Harvards. But we'll have to leave it there. A great discussion. I thank you for coming on.
Thanks, Elias.
That's Gabriel Miller, president of Universities Canada.
Hello, Canada.
This is Bryan Adams Radio, hosted by Bryan Adams himself.
We'll play a few of mine, a ton of my favorites, and some must-hear behind-the-scenes stories from the world of rock and roll. We're coming to get you! One thing about doing rock and roll so long is you end up meeting a lot of the people that you admire. Sometimes you even get to work with them.
It's only love, and that's all. Bryan Adams Radio. I'm coming back to you. Now available on the free iHeartRadio app.
Hey everybody, how are you tonight? Sounds great.